Hey guys, what's up? My name is Publik, and I'm bringing you today the Call to the Void Episode 2 guide, where I'm just going to talk about some recent things that have happened in the life of Shadow with World of Warcraft. And in this kind of week's or today's episode, we're essentially going to go over three big things, which is Surrender to Madness weights have changed since I did the 7.1 guide. In general, the state of like relics and how to determine, what's an upgrade on that front. And then finally, we're just going to talk about, again, the state of Shadow, where things are at, and that kind of thing. So first things first, all the How to Priest theory crafters have come up with weights that are a bit more accurate as far as where we're at now. A lot of this is affected from the hotfix that happened that changed the drain rate. The only the change was noticeable to a certain degree, especially before 20 stacks in void form. The drain is slower, so that means you can stay in void form more easily. And then after 20, it ramps up quite significantly faster. So this did change a few things. So instead of having three weights based on your haste levels, there's actually essentially three stages based on other checkpoints. So you'll see these coming up now. The first one is your goal is to reach 9.5k haste. And this is just to get the most use out of the stat before you start noticing that just the value of it drops pretty hard. Some say it's not worth it anymore. It's still worth it to get haste. It's just not as worth it as other stats. After you get that 9.5k haste, you can see you then have the 9k crit values. And this is what you want to go for after the haste. And then after you get both 9.5k haste and 9k crit, then essentially your goal at that point is just to gear for mastery. Don't go below either of those two previous thresholds, and then just continue to get mastery, and that's what you want to do to gear your character the best. Now, if you have more questions on how these are calculated and that kind of thing, the article from How to Priest is linked in the description. Highly suggest you check that guy out to learn more about how these were made, where we found these numbers, and that type of thing. So the next thing I'll touch on a little bit is just relics in general. For a lot of the expansion, we've just been saying, take higher eye level relics over everything first, which is still true for the most part. It's just kind of putting the math to that madness and how things are working. So you can see this coming up now, the little chart that was made, kind of describing the value of some traits versus others. And essentially all this is showing is that value relics that affect our dots, which for the most part is the Vampiric Touch one, Shadow of Pain one, Unleash the Shadows off of Vampiric Touch crits, and then Creeping Shadows is just flat shadow damage. All of those guys affect how our dots work in some way, which is why you see those as our top percent DPS gains. So kind of follow this as your guideline when you're picking up relics and things like that. This isn't totally like 100% accurate on every single scenario, but this was done using a range of fight styles, not just patchwork, not just little ads coming out, not AoE, not just dungeons. So you definitely kind of see a broader range of effect with these guys. So I mean that pretty much covers relics. And the last thing that I want to touch on in this is just where Shadow is right now. Shadow, last when I did the 7.1 guide, we were still doing Emerald Nightmare things, and people have asked, have things changed very much with Trials of Valor coming out? All I'm going to say right now is Shadow is still an amazing spot. We're still absolutely one of the best DPS specs right now in the game, both in my opinion in terms of playability, fun, and general damage output too. So you have a lot of utility you can bring as a Shadow Priest as well, and mainly just being very, very good in general in terms of damage. So with that being said, I never did my kind of Emerald Nightmare fight overview guide on a fight by fight basis. I plan on doing that once we finish Emerald Nightmare as a guild. Once we do that, I'll do like a Shadow specific guide for that guy, and then I'll do the same thing for Trials of Valor as well. So until then, again, Trials is looking very good, and there's really not a single fight, like I've said before, that Surrender to Madness isn't going to be our go-to in terms of damage output. That's both in Emerald Nightmare and Trials of Valor. The one caveat to that is pretty much going to be Il'gynoth in Emerald Nightmare. The fight's pretty long, it's like 9 or 10 minutes. It's not to say Surrender gets devalued at that point, it's just the fight isn't really great for Surrender. Is it still viable? Absolutely it is. It's still an amazing spec for Il'gynoth. I've been kind of leaning towards just going Legacy on that fight, but then using Surrender for everything else. So guys, I mean that's pretty much it. Nothing else has really changed. If and when new things come, I will gladly make more videos showcasing those kinds of things. If you have specific videos that you'd like me to cover, whether it's shadow specific or game specific, just leave it as a comment below and I'll see what I can do as far as that goes. Alright guys, I will talk to you guys later. Enjoy.